Now, the insurance industry has traditionally relied on manual processes for handling claims and other customer interactions. But this is changing with the introduction of new technologies like AI and chatbots. These new tools allow companies to streamline their operations while providing better services to customers at a lower cost. Our next panel will explore how this trend is changing the way customers interact with insurance companies and what this means for the future of the industry. Please help me welcome Mr. Joshua Sceehnolch, founder and CEO of White Wing Insurance, LLC, Mr. Bob Neinabar, CEO of BenefitRFP, Inc., Uma, Director of Data Analytics and CareFirst Community Health Plan, DC, Mr. Paul Seegert, Managing Partner at PCS Advisers, Mayuresh Kulkarni, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, AI/ML Program Lead at Adobe, and they will share their thoughts on how automation is transforming the customer experience in the insurance industry. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, Vegas. Oh, okay, it's hard. One thing, I had a plan to start this show, but I really changed it. After my speaker before, I had to change my speech. Thank you, Sean, for a really phenomenal speech, and I really, really like that. The person who stands in front of you is exactly this person. I wouldn't live either. I grew up in Germany as an orphan, black orphan in 1969. Nobody knew in Germany there is a black person on this planet, okay? So I was actually banned to die as an orphanage. Today, here, I get my first American award in the United States. As a US citizen, as a black orphan, I made it to this stage here, into the city. I was the first time in my life after being an orphan. I come back and get my first award in this city. That's why I'm so excited to have great, great people here behind me, expert out of the industry. And I don't want to talk about titles. I wanted to introduce them by fun facts. Here's why fun facts. These are experts talking about automation, AI, artificial intelligence, and automation. And we all get scared nowadays and say, oh, it's automation. They're taking over our humanity. But you know what, guys? Here are sitting humans with a humanity award, Bob Neinabar, with someone here, artificial intelligence, who already exploding the market and help business owners to save a lot of money because the insurance industry is not transparent enough. We get scared. So many data, yeah? And what are they gonna do with this data? No, let's hold everything and tie it and hide it behind everything. We have found ways to make automation, artificial intelligence, human, so that you don't need to be scared. You know it's going to help you. Just envision one thing. I just wrote an article in Carl Brogan magazine, and we talked about in this magazine about the Butler effect. Just imagine you come in this room here, a stewardess is coming, shaking the hand and saying, hello, Mr. Sceehnolch. I know you like to sit mainly in the front. The coffee is already there. I know you don't like milk. And by the way, we also have, while you're sitting there watching the show, you get a foot massage. This is artificial intelligence. Let's start with Bob. Bob, what you do in your company, and how did you get into this industry?
Well, I got into the industry, can you guys hear? I got into this industry about 30 years ago, came in as just a regular insurance person, and looked around and realized that the people that were doing pretty good would sell maybe one case a year or a month, and they would talk to maybe 8 to 10 people a month. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if instead of just talking to 500 people a year, whatever they're doing, if I could talk to 10,000 people? And back then it was just about setting up seminars. And then as computer automation started coming around, I started realizing that the social network and social media was really taking off. And I thought, well, why talk to 10,000 people? Why not talk to 100,000 people or 200,000 people? Or better yet, have automation talk and do that first introduction stuff for me, and really mill it down and mine all the people that were the ones that I ultimately wanted to talk to as the end result. And so that's what we created when we started the process of our company. What we have is called the Benefit Matrix. And nowadays, you look at the development of AI and what technology's become, a lot of people are afraid of it because they don't really understand it. Artificial intelligence is your best friend if you want to be a top producer in the financial sector, or if you want to reach a large audience, because it can mill down all the people that aren't prospects for you, aren't really interested in, and you can change what your end results are going to be. Fast forward to where we're at right now, we have a technology now that takes in and can take any company really around the world, and it can do a diagnostic. So it can tell them exactly what plans or what type of risk management they need in their company. It can then compare every single life insurance product or investment side by side using a heat map technology. It can spit out the end results so that we can also see the participants that are in plans that need to have some type of counseling or concierge approach, so that we can really look at and identify how to make the individuals that are either owning the company or participants in these companies, so that we can then bring them products they need. And all that's now being done. Our next phase is going out in January. All that's now being done already, and we've been beta testing this, where clients do that themselves. And the only thing that my company's really managing is the application process, the writing up of the business. And it scares people when I tell folks that we run an EBITDA in our company of 85%. We've never had a business loan. We've always built this from the inside revenue. And we do more revenue in our company than small insurance companies do in total, and we have less than 10 employees. And that comes out of utilizing and partnering and developing the technology. This technology didn't exist 10 years ago. It's all proprietary. It's all been built up. And it makes my team better, because a case manager who can normally maybe work on 30, 40 cases a year, they can work on hundreds, because the technology is now doing all that behind the scenes stuff, and they get to now meet their clients. And before it wasn't like that. You didn't have that kind of access. And so what you want to look at is not whether or not artificial intelligence is going to go away. Like Sean, I've never done any marketing. South Park does my landing page videos because I wrote their Friends with the Grammys years ago. You meet people, you figure out how to get this relationship with these people. But you can't be afraid of artificial intelligence. You have to learn how to partner with it and make your business better. I stood in front of an audience. Joshua knows the story. I stood in front of an audience a couple years ago, and there's about 5,000 or 6,000 people in the audience, and they were all securities, insurance brokers, and all that. And they said, "What's your goal with your technology?" And I said, "To eliminate 85% of the people's jobs in this room." Because that's what technology does. It gets rid of the people that aren't really doing anything. But for the 15% that get beside this technology and understand this technology, it's made them multi-millionaires. And that's what everybody in this room is capable of doing, as long as you understand it and learn how to partner with it. So I kind of look at it in a way of simply eliminating the things that aren't helping anybody. If it's filing papers or doing the heavy lifting of stuff that you got to send up to whatever files, let the technology do it. Don't waste your time trying to do it yourselves. Focus on the relationships that you have. That's what best agents do. Focus on the people that you want to be friends with, and then when you do that, you're gonna see your personal wealth just go through the stratosphere. So it's that's my biggest message. Just make friends with AI. Not going anywhere. It's here to stay, and we are just on the very beginning of these developments. It's got a long ways to go still.
But Bob, you got a lot of awards in this area. So you served with the last 3 presidents as well in this area. So
Yeah, I've been fortunate. So I've worked a long time, actually the last 5 presidents. I received the 2022 International Humanitarian Award. It's brought me into some great relationships and all that kind of stuff. All that really doesn't matter. The biggest thing that matters is, and I think Sean in the last message said it the best, you're never any better than anybody and you're never any worse than anybody. What scares the heck out of me is I was in Kiev a couple weeks ago too, so I wonder if I was there with Sean. But what you want to simply with technology, people do get afraid of it. You know the McDonald's story. As soon as those people were striking for guaranteed $15 an hour job, you knew technology was going to come in. Because it's not a really necessary job that somebody is going to make a living off of. And that's the way technology works. When that stuff happens, so you always got to make yourself special in a relationship when you're out there. You've got to study more. You've got to understand. You've got to look at your picture more. And the way I would always say, if somebody that's 20 years old came up to me and said, how do I get where you're at? You've sold companies for $50, $60 million. You've made all this money, made all this stuff. Nothing ever changed. I'm still exactly the way I was, moseying along. It's just I've had now the end results of the technology. So wherever you're at and whatever walk of life you're at, take the time, look at your world, what you would love to eliminate by technology that exists, and if the technology doesn't exist and it's really driving you nuts on whatever it is that you're looking at, help just create it. We've got some of the best technology production teams in the world that we work with. Not one of them is an employee of mine. And I do that on purpose. I don't want a gazillion folks around me all the time. It makes it more complex. I got to worry about a lot of stuff. I like a small crowd. So I can always 1099 an IT team, people that do whatever. Just get the right teams around you on that stuff and kind of look at yourself in 10 and 20 years and see what you're going to become, and then go for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Bob. So yeah, Uma, I met Uma just 2 days ago, and I asked her a fun fact about her in her family. So how you try to get to know the speaker, and Uma told me, and she is a data scientist and analyst. She works with data. She does that all life in several different companies, and she has kids. So her kids have a phone, smartphone. Mommy, data scientist, analyst, yeah? And she says, okay, but at night, she does the Wi-Fi off. No Wi-Fi, no internet. The kids has to sleep. That's a really fun fact. I like that very much. But the real fun fact is actually that she has a second Wi-Fi, so she can work from home. So her Wi-Fi works. That's actually the fun fact.
Thank you.
Uma, so what do you do? Maybe you introduce and tell us a little bit about what you do in the company and what's your role there.
I work for CareFirst, a health plan, which is a Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. I'm the director of data analytics for them, and I serve their DC Medicaid line of business. So every day I churn data. My team actually, look at the data. I echo Bob, and I feel that technology is our friend, because in everything you take, right, there is good and bad. Even the food we eat, if we can make good choices, we can make bad choices. So technology can be bad, can be good, but then let's look at the good things which technology offers us. Back in the old days, because I was a data analyst, now I'm a director, but it was very difficult for me to look at all those claims data. We have millions and millions of claims data. Look at those claims data and to predict a person's illness, so I can tell my senior leadership that this is where the trend is going. Half of our population is having diabetes, or so in order for me to do that, I have to look at a lot of things. Now with AI and ML and predictive technologies available, we can do this in a very short amount of time. So we can focus more on our customers, our members. So now what we are doing is we are able to predict if the member is going to be diabetic in the next 6 months. So we take measures, and tell the members they can do healthy choices. We offer cooking classes for them, so many other things. So I feel like, automation has a lot of good uses, so we shouldn't be afraid of technology.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So another nice, really great fun fact is I asked Paul this lunch today, Paul, what's your fun fact? So what can I say about you? So he said, in the last 3 years during pandemic COVID, he still had to do his appointments. Paul is very all over the place in the US, speaking and helping saving money for business owners, yeah? Because of transparency. We actually have this in common because my company is also trying to bring more transparency in this industry. And Paul said, I have a pilot license. I can fly myself to any appointment I need, but then at some point, I had a burglary in my house, and they stole the flight license. Now I said, do you get the, no, I have to do the flight license again because I have to prove and all of those things. So now he has to go back and do his pilot license as well. Again, right?
Yeah, I lost a bunch of hours.
Paul, you do a lot of transparency. We talked about this in our lunch. I really like the approach how you actually get into a company and make them aware of AI or of technology, of data, and also how great servicing this can be for a business owner. And in the end, it's really human. There's humanity in there too.
Absolutely.
Because it's really focusing on the client.
Right. Yeah, I think technology is your competitive advantage if you look at it right. So I take vendor calls all the time, even though I'm very busy, to learn about what else is out there, what's coming. Can it be my next competitive advantage? We built 2 companies, a marketing company and a healthcare consulting firm, which is my way of saying we helped mid-market employers and the lower end of large employers build self-funded plans, and then we'd analyze the data of their claims to acquire the business, but also then to manage the plans more effectively. On the marketing side, we found out, way back, it started out we would hit every company of a certain size or a certain size building. I mean, we just hit every company on the street. Not very efficient. Data comes along and the ability to scrape data that's out there. And when we were able to identify what our ideal prospect looked like, we realized, what if we only talk to our ideal prospects? If we could create the perfect avatar, this is our ideal client, which we could, then only send our message to that client over and over, scientifically, using a tech stack, using data, we would be more successful. And that gave us the ability to grow faster than our peers and go flat-footed. We started a new business in January of 17, with a 5-year plan to build and do an 8-figure M&A deal, and it took 3.5. And it was only possible because we were not wasting time, and that is because of data. And that was acquiring clients. So that then turned into a marketing company and a whole other thing. But when it comes to the healthcare side and the actual consulting that we do for employers, that's very technology-based as well. When you can go to an employer, get their claims data, do analysis that is now able to be done in minutes. It used to be, our team would spend 100 hours, probably similar to what you're experiencing there. They would spend 100 hours to put together a report that we could come back with. Now, literally minutes. They can put together a report that we can bring to an employer and pinpoint exactly where the waste is to the penny and why and how to fix it. So it's all become data-driven and transparent and a competitive advantage. It's absolutely your friend. And I love the 85% EBITDA. I've got EBITDA envy. We're unusual, running at around 50. So that's fantastic. But it makes you more profitable too.
So if we have a business owner sitting right here, so what would you tell this business owner who is really completely against data, this person who really is used to submit applications per paper, everything wet signature, that's how I do it, and I like to do this because I know it's going to get there and all of those things. What would you tell this business owner?
Technology will set you free. That's what I would tell you. And you have people that work for you today that are doing relatively menial jobs that have much greater potential. What if you could scale? It allowed us to scale in terms of revenue and profitability with the same size crew. Our crew has grown very slowly while our revenue grew exponentially. And that's a very powerful, if you're a true business owner versus a sole proprietor type mindset, that's exactly what you want.
Wow. Good answer. And it actually brings me to our next speaker, because there's two things I like on this guy. So one is actually exactly what Paul just said, data. Data is the key. As more data, as better we can serve the client. But who is reading this data? Who's analyzing this data? Who is organizing this data? That's what our next speaker is going to do, or is going to explain this. How this works and how complicated this is, but how amazing this is for the future. But the fun fact about this gentleman is because he does not know that we have one thing in common. He was, as a little boy in India, a famous boy band singer. He had a boy band, he had a guitar, he loves doing music, recording. And you know what? I had a boy band too in Germany. One of my boy band producers was Frank Farian. Do you know this guy? Milli Vanilli? Yeah, that was one of my producer, boy band in Germany. And my band was called In Color. Okay, yeah, with no further ado, please, tell us a little bit about data analytics.
The famous was a bit exaggeration.
Yeah.
That's okay, I appreciate
Okay.
it though. Here is the thing, right? I think, yes, you're right. Data is, I define it as data is the new oil. And you need data for doing anything, robotic process automation, AI, ML, all of that, right? But there are a couple of things that we probably need to answer first, right? And going back to the topic of our discussion, transforming the customer experience. And really, we need to answer and ask this question of who is the customer here? Insurance or banking as a whole is a complex web, and there are several customers. One customer is really the person who's buying the policy. Other could be an agent, a broker, someone, the third one that comes to my mind is someone who's servicing claims. So, just different flavors of customers that we have. And all of them have different and variety of data that they collect, right? So it goes back to the question of when we want to do automation, couple of things. We need to classify the data that is being collected, and insurers collect tons and tons of data. They collect so much of data that they don't know what to do about the data.
And you know what you're talking about because you worked for insurer to really analyze this data.
That's exactly. It's
you actually saw also the big mess they have.
And big mess. And and sometimes the data is electronic, and sometimes the data is paper. Where I've been in a situation which I was telling you earlier, where data is gathered in paper, and every day there is a truck that goes from point A to point B, and then the paper, someone takes it overnight and then puts it and digitizes it, right? So irrespective. Goes back to the conversation of who is the customer and what kind of data has been collected. And just the amount of data that you have, it's not possible to funnel it down using the regular manual ways, right? So you have to find new innovative ways to use AI, ML, a lot of classifiers, and really get innovative so that you let machine do some of this analysis. And then that goes back to the topic that Uma was talking about, is once you have that pool, then you have the ability to harness some of that and really start reaping the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Bob?
No, I was just going to say that's huge. We were talking a couple days ago, and years ago, everybody would have to just upload all this data, and it was just a job. And now that they have that data, a lot of people still think marketing is the old school. Marketing with AI now, a lot of companies will tell you what you're going to eat because of past experiences. They know, and all this information that you're seeing on the internet, and I know people get a little bit paranoid or scared sometimes on all this, but that's what true marketing is to lead you with what you're already, they know you're going to end up with. The other thing that makes it very interesting, and actuaries have been doing this for years, especially insurance actuaries, where they can pretty much tell you pretty close when you're going to die. We use it in our systems because when we know if we meet with a $2 billion company and they're going to set up an executive plan, we can tell you from all the information that we've gathered on this data exactly what that plan is going to go in at. And it comes very close to that whenever we enroll new plans. And this takes a lot of information. And so the more information that goes into these systems over the years, it just makes that forecasting a lot stronger. And so when I go to insurance companies, I can bring down the commission scale for the consultants that are working on it, which brings up the value for the companies that are buying the product. It's a much more secure system for the insurance company because they have more data than their actuaries come up with. And we've had a lot of actuaries come in from different companies with the head of companies trying to do a comparison between our technologies to tell us how their product's going to fit the best, get the best results. We've never lost that bet. We always bet a steak and a nice bottle of wine. So I like wine, so it works out good. But and that's what really AI is out there for, is it gives you a much better roadmap. You know where you're going with things, and you also know where to spend money as a company investing into marketplaces. Because if I'm looking at something that's not going to give me a result that's measurable, why am I even wasting time with it? Why am I even talking to people? And so you get more precise, and the cost comes down for the client. The cost on a percentage basis goes down for the brokers and consultants, but overall goes up much higher. And so because you have a better performing area, and you're also reaching probably 20 more times the client base than you normally would have.
Uma, so looking from this perspective, Bob just said, would you say, or would you agree that with all this data we're generating in this new market, we get more humanized or we get more computer, more digitalized?
I would say we get more humanized, not computerized. Why? Because even, yes, we give a lot of data. Google collects a lot of data. Look at it this way. We have all the claims data, but for us, we treat the disease, clinical disease, in a clinical setting. The disease will come back again and again because of their socioeconomic status. So what we do is we not only look at the claims data or clinical data, we also look at their surroundings. We also address the social inequalities by looking at the publicly available data. So, which means that now, instead of just patient, he's just a patient, treat the patient, but we are not treating him as a patient, but we are treating him as another human being who needs something more than what we can give in a clinical setting. Maybe he's homeless, he needs a group home, or maybe for him to come to the hospitals or providers, he needs a transportation. So we can provide all that information. So I feel that all this AI and automation is giving us this whole person care instead of just treating the disease and yeah, I'm done with you. No, now people have empathy. They see holistically what's happening, and then not just treating the disease, but giving them the care they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this sounds humanized, right? This is really, really, really powerful. Paul, you mentioned to me at lunch as well a little bit about transparency. We talked about transparency, what this really actually do to employer, but also to the end customer, to the client of the employer, the employee It really goes in their personal private pocket. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got the data, how you figured this out, and then how you serve then the client?
Sure. Yeah, it's humanizing because we can get better outcomes, and that's nothing more human than that. People's health and their longevity and their happiness and their financial well-being. 2 out of 3 bankruptcies are still because of medical bills in this country. So, can we fix that? And we use really smart people and really good technology to monitor the data in plans. And what we see, a good example of how that can have a real impact for all the, something I've been thinking a lot about lately, and a phrase that I think I invented, but I probably didn't, is creating transactions without any losers. And this is a good example of that. We were able, during the pandemic, technology, we knew long before it was in the news that lockdowns were having a negative impact on mental health because we could see an uptick in claims, prescriptions related to that. So that allowed us to manage this thing in real time. Don't come back to an employer at renewal and say, here's what happened, what are we going to do about it now? Instead, here's what's happening, here's what we can do right now that will impact outcomes. And everyone wins. The plan spends less. We were able to roll out telemental health to these employers. We watched claims level off. Months later, it's in the news that it's bad as far as what's going on. The plan did better. The people did better. Everyone knows earlier intervention is healthier in healthcare, generally speaking. So that's one example. We can see there's many others like that where you can take things in real time and get better outcomes, where the plan wins, the employee wins, everyone wins financially, and that's only now possible because of data.
Perfect. I mean, data becomes really, really important. That means you become more important in this game. So if we're looking at all the data, it's actually almost the same conversation we had back in the days when we changed our phones and everything from analog to digital. Do you guys remember these conversations on stages? Oh, this is going to go, this is the death, this is done. So, but now we have the chance, a new chance, to make intelligence data, artificial, more like us, yeah? More like humans, but not as a threat, as a win for us. So data, if you look at all this data in the future, how does this look in terms of organizing databases and all of those things? How is this also really secure for us as customer, not being scared that my data is going to generate a new avatar and I go in Vegas and I see this guy, Joshua looks like me, behaves like me, has this 1,000 girls around him, plays the cool dude, and that's not me, but what's going on?
So I think your question is more about how the future is going to look and how it's going to work with data. But before we start thinking about how, there is a why and what, right? And the why and what is, why do we need to do it and what do we need to do, right? And in this case, with automation, the way I believe the customer experience is going to evolve is, in insurance world, I think of it as hyper-personalization. So, as an example, today if you go and buy a health insurance policy through your employer, everyone gets a same policy, right? All the employers for company A will get the same policy. And when I look at it and I'm like, hey, I'm more healthy, I'm better in XYZ, whatever, than some of my peers. Mm-hmm. Why am I paying a higher premium? And the reason why I'm paying a higher premium is because the way insurance works is you get put into a pool by actuaries for the entire company, right? Mm-hmm. So again, going back to what are we trying to do, what needs to happen is, in future, because the data is there and automation is helping us, I need a hyper-personalized quote for me and my family. In this case, when I need to get a health insurance, right? So that's the what piece. And then answering your question of how, That's a very valid question. You know, when you want to do something which is more hyper-personalized, you are extending a lot more data, and it comes with pros and cons, right? It comes with challenges. Now, I have to be willing to share, you know, and this is already happening. You know, insurers are taking all the health data that Apple Watch has, and they're using it to price their policies. You know, so I have to be willing to share some of my medical records. I have to be willing to share some of my, you know, data that I think is proprietary, with an understanding that there is an upside to it. And there can be a downside to it as well, right? But the hope is there is more upside to it. Can you safeguard this data? Yes, and that's where a lot of regulations come through. There are already a lot of regulations around you know, insurance data and HIPAA and all of that, right? So the regulations do exist. The way it doesn't work right now is the regulation sometimes becomes so stringent that it doesn't allow, and you know, now this goes back to probably point that you'll come to is, what are the barriers to automation? Is data exists, but the regulations are some of the barriers. And you know, insurers and the regulators have to work together to, you know, solve and really untap some of these challenges.
So we're actually on this edge really to see more and more willingness to put the effort in. And that's why this is really, we're talking about InsurTech, we're talking about finance tech and all of those things, artificial intelligence. This is the future. This is where we're heading. And that's why this is one of the largest investment market right now. You know, billions of dollars are spent into this market to really make this fly. Thank you very much, all this expertise. Let me tell you a little bit about what my company does and how we help actually our clients. Our clients are more the agent, the insurance broker. We help with artificial or automation to make the day-by-day sales process and transaction process of insurance more easy and automated and more accessible. So more so that they have the effect they need to really focus on the client and not just focusing on the process and getting the process with underwriting and all of those things done. So that's all automation and AI, which we implementing and testing and more. So actually we started our company just a half year before the COVID pandemic started, and the acceleration during pandemic was immense because now every agent and broker understood that technology is a huge part which can help them be more successful and efficient. Yeah. So that's a little bit kind of what we do. So I want to open up because we're running out of time, and two of my gentlemen, the world travelers here, you know, they have to head out pretty soon and fly away again. I'm going to stay one day longer. So if you want to get in touch with us, please do me a favor, take your phone. Yeah, right now. Remember, Jean just said, you know, we have lots of excuse. Get it out, get in contact with us. Because we are a group of AI experts. You can find us on the Wide Wing Insurance Solution. That's the group in LinkedIn. You hit there, you join, yeah, and then all of the speakers are introduced on the platform. You can reach out, you can get in contact and get more knowledge shared, you know, because this is all, we're all in this together, no? We like to say. So I want to open up for question. Is there any question? Not so many, please. Okay, that's fine, you know, so it's great. Any later in the day, you know, so any last recommendation or last comment on our attendees here?
I'd like to say
Yeah?
that, you know, technology is our friend. Don't be afraid. If you use it in the right way, it's a good thing.
Perfect. Maybe our Humanity Award winner?
There's a question out there.
There's a question, please. Yeah, that's the mic. Hope it's on. So maybe quick your name, your company, what you do, and then please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mona Golden Brown, and I have an HR firm and do payroll. I also actually partner with insurance agencies like White Wing Insurance and help them with a lot of their AI and stuff that they're working on. But I was just over at the Internet 2.0 conference, and I spoke on women in robotics, and it was all about AI. And I want to bring up something that you just said, and I just kind of had an epiphany. I usually don't share my data, right? But as we talked over there, we talked about how important it is to include everyone, especially in this AI thing. When AI is going to be running our lives, we all want to be, or should want to be represented when decisions are made by this artificial intelligence. And if we don't put our data in there, we're going to be left out. So if we want to be diversified and inclusive, we need to include ourselves and put our data out there. So I'm going to do it now.
Yeah, no, perfect. No, that's absolutely true. Actually, you said something at lunch, right? About putting yourself in by making it transparent and accessible for everyone. Not because they mention, very often they say, oh, HIPAA, and you cannot get the data or anything. Maybe you want to...
HIPAA just means a lot of times people that have the data don't want to share the data. That's one of the challenges we face. And we can all do better. We can create transactions that don't have losers if we're all willing to share the data. And there are lots of red herrings out there. HIPAA is one. HIPAA doesn't say you can't have the data. It says you have to safeguard the data. And you can get certified. And these employers are fiduciaries of this data. They really need it if they're going to do a good job of managing this plan in partnership with the insurer or the third-party administrator or whoever they're working with, the reinsurers, everyone. It has to be shared.
I like to say. So nowadays, the regulators understand that, data needs to be shared. So CMS have come up with CMS interoperability rule. So there is a patient-to-patient API and pay-to-patient API. They have mandated it, and people are working on it to share the data between payers and between patients, so the patient can see their 5 years worth of claims history. So it's happening.
Yeah.
People
and this
are
is really important. I can tell you it's easier in Europe. I really have to tell you, this is lots of experience in this. I have a complete different experience about data in Europe than here. It's really interesting.
Just to close it, I think we are saying the same thing. We went from one extreme where we were all open to share data when Facebook came in back in the day, and we didn't think about it, to complete other end of the extreme where we are like so conscious about sharing anything and everything. And there is a middle ground that all of us have to make to get better experience using AI, ML, automation, and use it to our benefit. And the question is to all of us is, what data do I want to share so I can get benefit out of it? Like if I share a particular data attribute, and you can think about gaming your system, but yes, you have to game the system to gain advantage, because industries have been doing it, and now it's our turn because we have the power to do it. So what can we share so that I can get a better price if you're shopping? What can I share if I can get a better price if I want a policy? So the question is on us, and we need to answer it individually.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Big applause for our speaker today. I just wanted to remark one last thing. We're really thankful for having our panel here at the Money 2.0. A great organization, great work. Really appreciate that and honor. And I feel honored, and these gentlemen feel honored. I know we have 3 award winners already this afternoon, and I get mine now. Okay, thank you guys.